Hello everyone, peace be upon you all. Welcome to stream number 9, where we learn linguistics. We are going to continue learning morphology. We are learning the differences between derivational affixes, inflectional affixes, and clitics now. He says 3 main types of bound morphemes were introduced in the previous sections. Derivational affixes give rise to new lexical words, while inflectional affixes give different forms of the word to which they are attached, forms that are appropriate to the grammatical environment of the sentence. There are several other differences between derivational and inflectional affixes that are tendencies rather than absolute differences. These differences underline the status of derivational morphemes as lexical rather than grammatical in nature. First, concept distinctiveness. Attaching a derivational affix to a word generally gives rise to a new concept that could in principle be expressed by a simple lexical root. Attaching an inflectional affix does not result in a new concept. In Warwa, the derived word borkuru, a thing associated with a brumming noise, means car. The alternative form mudika, borrowed from English, is a root expressing the same meaning. What does he mean? What does he intend to say? In Warwa, the derived word borkura, thing associated with a brumming noise, means car. The alternative form whatever. Okay, secondly, degree of abstraction. Derivational affixes tend to have more concrete meanings than inflectional affixes. The meaning is more like that of a lexical word, while inflectional affixes have meanings more like grammatical words. For example, the English derivational suffix s has a quite concrete lexical-like meaning: female. Relevance. The meaning of a derivational affix is usually relevant to the meaning of the root. The meaning of an inflectional affix need not necessarily be very relevant to the meaning of the word. Thus, compare the meaning of the derivational affix s, which highlights a characteristic of the person or animal denoted, with that of a case inflection which does not. Replaceability. A word with a derivational affix attached to it can usually be replaced by a single simple word. This is not normally possible for a word with an inflectional affix, which will usually have to be replaced by another inflected form. Regularity. Derived words often have irregular or not entirely predictable meanings. The meanings of inflected words are normally completely irregular and predictable. The lack of regularity in meanings of derived words can be illustrated by the derivational suffix "ize", which has rather different effects in publicize, romanticize, and winterize. Okay. Productivity. Derivational affixes usually have limited applicability. Derivational affixes usually have limited applicability. Inflectional affixes usually apply to all words of a particular part of speech. Forgot what a part of speech is. Never mind. Derivational affixes usually have limited applicability. Inflectional affixes usually apply to all words of a particular part of speech. Oh, I got it. With perhaps a small class of irregularities. The English derivational suffix "s" occurs on heiress, authoress, waitress, lioness, goddess, and so on, but there are arbitrary restrictions on the suffix. Jokes aside, we do not say elephantus for female elephant, personess for woman, workeress for female worker, or professoress for female professor. Clitics do not give a new form of the word to which they are attached, and nor do they result in new lexical words. The forms haven't and isn't are not inflected forms of have and be, and nor are they separate lexical items that need to be listed individually in a dictionary. Differences between clitics and affixes include the following, which are again tendencies rather than absolute differences. Freedom of position. Clitics often, though not always, have a degree of freedom of movement in a sentence, a feature not shared by affixes. Gunyandi has a question clitic me that can go on any word of a sentence, regardless of its position. No affix has this degree of freedom. Why didn't he give an example from English? I don't understand this example. Anyway, selectivity. Clitics tend to be relatively free in terms of the range of lexical items they can be attached to, as we saw for English S. Affixes are generally more particular about the company they keep. Allomorphic variation. Clitics generally show few allomorphs. and thus they do have, can usually be explained by the phonological environment, as is the case for the allomorphs of the possessive s. Allomorphs of affixes can have peculiarities that are not explicable by the phonological environment, as in the case of the plural allomorph n, which is found unpredictably on just a few nouns. Okay, like children, I guess. Predictability of meaning. There are rarely, if ever, semantic idiosyncrasies in clitics. Regardless of what word they happen to be attached to, the meaning is generally consistent. Prosodic integration. Clitics are not necessarily prosodically integrated into the words they are attached to, whereas affixes are often integrated. What does integration mean in this context? In some languages, inflected or derived words are stressed like roots. Words and their clitics need not be stressed like roots. And the clitic may show prosodic features of a word. For instance, Gunyandi. Again, Gunyandi. Why doesn't he give examples from known languages? Gunyandi has a set of clitic pronominals that attach to verbs, as in wordaba, negara, bring one singular, oblique, bring it to me for me. These are stressed as though they were separate words. Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. Clitics are not necessarily prosodically integrated into the words they are attached. They aren't necessarily, where affixes are often integrated. Affixes are often integrated. In some languages, inflected or derived words are stressed like roots. Words and the clitics need not be stressed like roots, and the clitic may show prosodic features of a word. Words and their clitics need not be stressed like roots. In some languages, inflected or derived words are stressed like roots. Stressed like roots. Trying to understand. never mind, it's not important. Figure 3.1 attempts to bring out by analogy the difference between the three types of bound morphemes. If bound morphemes of all three types can be attached on the same side of a given word in a language, it is derivational affixes that normally go next to the root giving a stem, then come inflectional affixes, and finally clitics at the greatest distance from the root. Thus, in English, the plural inflection of nouns follow derivational affixes such as teachers, farmers, and so on. Similarly, in energized, the derivational affix is next to the root and is followed by the inflection. And in the robot, in the robot, we energized coprocessor. In the robot, we energized coprocessor. The possessive enclitic s comes word finally. Comes word finally. What? There's something wrong here, I think. Also, I forgot about what's different types of clitics, enclitics and proclitics. If they are part of the preceding word, they are an enclitic. If they are part of the following word, they are proclitic. Okay. Like what? What's an example of proclitics? Allomorphs and allomorph conditioning. We have now introduced the main morphological units found in languages and their types. In this section, we will look at the relations between allomorphs, how allomorphs of a morpheme resemble one another phonologically, and the factors that condition the choices among them. I lost focus. Let's repeat. We have now introduced the main morphological units found in languages and their types. In this section, we will look at the relations between allomorphs. How allomorphs of a morpheme resemble one another phonologically. Why is he saying phonologically and not phonetically? Whatever. And the factors that condition the choices among them. Okay, we will understand later. Types of allomorph. So far, with one exception, the morphemes we have discussed have allomorphs that are phonologically similar. The three English plural and allomorphs, S and Z and EZ, like the formerly identical possessive allomorphs, like the formerly identical possessive allomorphs are obviously very similar phonologically. These are called phonological allomorphs. But allomorphs can be quite different phonologically. What is he saying phonologically and not phonetically? I don't know. The derived comparative and superlative forms of good are better and best, with the regular derivational suffix and est. However, these suffixes are not attached to good to give gooder and goodest, although these can be found in the speech of children and in jocular, playful, or foreigner speech of adults. The derivational morphemes are instead attached to bet and be. Which are phonological allomorphs. Allomorphs of good and that are not phonologically related to it. The derivational morphemes are instead attached to bet and be, which are allomorphs of good that are not phonologically related to it. Variants like good, bet, and be are said to be suppletive allomorphs. Gome, which is an Afro-Asiatic language found in Nigeria, has a fair amount of suppletion in its lexicon. Compare fear and nan, singular and plural verbs of become big. Mat and sharap, the singular and plural forms of the noun woman. Suppletion can also be found in grammatical morphemes. For instance, in Yawuru, Newlin, which is a Newlin language found in Australia, verbs take prefixes indicating whether the subject is I, we, you, he, she, it, they, and so on. Verbs take prefixes indicating whether the subject is whatever, indicating the subject. The form of the prefix for subject you, one individual, is usually me, as in minananda, you caught it. Minurkun, you were cutting hair. In reference to a future event, however, the form of this prefix is instead usually wal. Olana, you will catch it. And waljurku, you will cut hair. But for a verb it is na. For a few verbs it is na. As in najali, you will return. The three forms mi, wal, and na are suppletive allomorphs of the second person singular subject prefix. This is a very long description. Types of conditioning factor. Conditioning factors are the factors that determine which allomorph of a morpheme you use. Isn't it phonological? Ease of pronunciation. In phonological conditioning, different allomorphs are selected according to the phonological environment. The choice between the allomorph e and n of the English indefinite and an of the English indefinite article is phonologically conditioned by the following phoneme, whether it is a vowel or a consonant. The three possessive allomorphs s, z, and ez are also phonologically conditioned, though in this instance by the preceding phoneme. Sometimes allomorphs show lexical conditioning. That is, the choice of allomorph depends on the particular word the morpheme is attached to. A specific instance of this is the plural suffix involving n, found on the irregular plurals of children and oxen. So also is the choice between n, phonological form n, and ed, phonological form t, d, and ed in the past participle. What is the past participle? Oh, he says, the form of the verb used after have and had. Thus we have on the one hand have given. What's the difference between I gave you and I have given you? What's the difference between normal past and the past participle? I gave you this chocolate. It would usually mean I gave you this chocolate. I have gave you this pen. it would indicate in some way that it is mine. I have gave you this pen. As an answer to the question, which pen did you give me? I gave you this pen. I have given you this pen. I think it's the same. It feels the same. But have given feels more like something that has been done and finished. I guess. Thus we have on the one hand have given, have eaten, have broken, and on the other hand have finished, have grabbed, have wanted. That possibility is morphological conditioning. Here it is the grammatical rather than lexical morphemes that condition the presence of the allomorph. We saw an example in the previous section with the distribution of the suppletive allomorphs of the U subject prefix in Yawuru, which depend in part on whether the event is in the future or not. Grammatical rather than lexical morphemes that condition the presence of the allomorph. I'm confused. Grammatical morphemes. What are grammatical morphemes? I forgot. They are the derivation, the inflectional affixes and clitics, right? Yes, they are clitics and inflectional morphemes in grammatical words. Wait. Grammatical words? What would they be named? Free grammatical morphemes. Okay. 74 pages. Page 74. Which page are we at? We are on page 67. We've got a long way to go. I'm thirsty. Even though I drank a lot of water. But I guess speaking too much makes you thirsty. All three types of conditioning factors can be relevant to the choice among that possibility is morphological conditioning. Here it is the grammatical, random, and lexical morphemes that condition the presence of the allomorph. Grammatical morphemes. Enough. All three types of conditioning factors can be relevant to the choice among allomorphs of inflectional and derivational affixes, including combinations of factors. For allomorphs of clitics, conditioning is almost always phonological. Morphological rules. In section 6, we saw that phonemes, chapter 2, section 6, we saw that phonemes are abstract forms. I forgot the difference between phoneme and allophone. Oh my god. Too much information. Phoneme and allophone, what's the difference? think it was one group of allophones together is a phoneme. Yes, I remember now. We saw that phonemes are abstract forms that are realized by phones. What? Okay. And the phoneme can be regarded as a set of allophones. Likewise, in morphology, it can be descriptively and conceptually useful to identify abstract forms for morphemes that are realized by different phonological allomorphs. Thus, the regular past suffix in English has three phonological allomorphs, t, d, and ed, which are in complementary distribution. We could hypothesize that they are alternative realizations of a more abstract form of the morpheme. The phonemes would thus relate to the abstract form in the same way as phones relate to phonemes. Thus, abstract forms are sometimes called morphophonemes. The specification of a morpheme in terms of these units is its morphophonemic form or underlying form. What? I don't understand. I guess I'll stop here. Take a break. Or should I push through? I'll push through. Such abstract forms are sometimes called morphophonemes. The specification of a morpheme in terms of these units. What units? I don't understand. Rules are needed to get from the morphophonemic form of a morpheme to its phonological forms, its allomorphs. And then another set of rules is necessary to get from that to the phonetic form. We could presume that the irregular allomorphs of the past suffix in English have underlying form D, using braces in order to maintain a distinction from phonemic and phonetic levels. What is this? Okay. I'm thinking of changing to book. It's too difficult. We'll get back to it if I don't find anything better. Okay guys, thank you for watching and goodbye. This might be the last video in this series. Peace.